Hey guys, this is Mike out from the Comic Book Syndicate. As you can tell by the fireplace raging behind us, this is our big Aquaman episode. And we're here with our two new pals, Santino. Hi, Santino.
Hello.
And Bronte.
Hi.
It started a little bit too rushed. There was a little bit too much CGI. But overall, let me put it this way, I didn't hate it. I expected to hate it. I expected it to be really stupid. Let me be clear. It wasn't great. It wasn't smart, but it wasn't stupid. So it was better than I thought it would be. I feel like maybe it was saved a lot in editing and in post-production. It feels like after how dreary and depressing the other DC movies were, like Justice League and Batman vs. Superman, it feels like they just went in and just hit saturation 200 on the whole movie and made it extra colorful and extra bright, almost like Tron or like an 80s kids movie, which I did like. But yeah, if they just would have slowed it down a little bit, you would have felt like you were more immersed in the world and taken along for the story. So I do wish they would have done that. But I think that the editing and the post-production is a lot of what saved it, because it probably was a lot worse before they sort of course corrected for all the other bad DC movies.
I'm going to play a really fun game. I'm going to play Please Convince Me That This Film Wasn't Hot Garbage with Mike and Becca. Who wants to go first?
Jason Momoa is very pretty. Also, Amber Heard is also very pretty. Man, these DC movies are so confusing for bisexual people because, like, we went to see Wonder Woman and I was like, who's hotter, Chris Pine or Gal Gadot? And now I'm like, who's hotter? I'm having a rough time sitting in the theater.
This is perfect because Santino and Bronte have never heard about Aquaman before tonight. Is that right?
Yes.
Santino, do you know anything about Aquaman?
Just that he can control the animals or the fish and
The fish, only the fish.
yes.
Let's start at the very beginning of the film where absolutely everything happened and nothing at all happened. It happened very quickly. It happened in a hazy Vaseline-covered world where Nicole Kidman is magically in her 20s and so is Jango Fett.
So I'm a lifelong Aquaman fan. You guys are new fans. What is your first impression of this film?
I thought it was okay. There were some parts that I think they overdid it, but mostly it was all right.
I also have to point out, Bronte is a film student, so you do have a little bit of background judging these things, right?
Yes, a little bit, I guess. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, Santino, what's your first impression of this movie?
The same as Bronte's. You know, it wasn't like, oh my God, this movie's amazing, but it wasn't horrible to me.
I also must point out Santino rides a motorcycle, so he is also qualified to judge this film, right? Okay, so
Once they brought us into Atlantis, one, I'm afraid of deep water. So seeing this beautiful Atlantean world was kind of neat. So I'm here for it. And ooh, spoiler, when we get to the ocean at the core of the earth, I was like, okay, this is the kind of fantasy I'm here for. This is the kind of fantasy I want to see, because it was also like Jurassic Park.
Overall, I think it was really good. I think definitely movies need to stop going towards trying to make people laugh by doing those stupid little camera movements where they just kind of like stare into a camera at like a funny moment. Like, stop trying to make the audience laugh and just let the story play out, because those little things kind of bring you out of the storyline and they don't keep you attached in it, which I think then you just get hooked on like, oh, this is a really cool CGI, and you lose the whole moral of the story.
it's frustrating when it's very clear how they could have improved the movie. Like, within the opening seconds of the film, Aquaman's father is like doing something outside of his lighthouse, and then he looks over and he sees this scantily clad Atlantean woman just laying there. It would have been nice to introduce the character, show what he does, show him doing something normal before you throw in this fantasy element. It was way too rushed. There was elements of the film where you see Vulko training Aquaman, and then it's like they're skipping ahead in time and then back and forth. It would have been so much better to just do like a journey of, you know, he's born and then he grows up and then he gets trained and then eventually we get to this other stuff. And to introduce it slowly, like, again, establish the normal world and then the fantasy comes in maybe a half hour into the movie. But instead we're kind of plunged in much too quickly. And I do agree it did feel awkward and rushed, but after a while I got into it.
I don't know. How about you, Becca?
Well, it felt like they were doing another Batman movie and just rushing through Batman's origin and rushing through his training to get to the part where he was Batman already. It's like, yeah, but besides Mike and I don't think anyone else in that theater had any, like, this movie played out exactly how I thought it was going to. It was exactly Aquaman's origin story, right? So, like, as an Aquaman fan, I knew what was going to happen, but I don't think anyone else in that theater really knew and had much idea. As like the casual moviegoer is not going to know who Aquaman is, where he comes from, his father, the lighthouse keeper, the whole like budding romance that happens, and Queen Atlanta's like turmoil between her people and the man that she loves, and like that's a kind of a big deal. And they were just like, nah, she eats a fish, it's funny. So like that kind of sucked. I kind of was a little upset about that, but then she kicks a bunch of ass, so I wasn't that upset about it.
Especially early in the movie, they liked their like 360-degree camera movements, and it was just
Video game.
it was a lot, and it was like too much for me.
They were definitely doing this 360 movement, and it's made for IMAX. Like that's what this movie was advertised as, and IMAX is all about that huge screen, the 360 sound system, and you can definitely tell like that's what they based this movie on. And so some of the camera movements could have been brought down a little bit, and it would have been easier to watch. I think, like you said, like the lighting was just, there were some points where I just had to like kind of squint because it was so powerful, which they were trying to make it look like Atlantis, but also it's like you're putting technology underwater in like this extreme way. Like it went from pitch blackness to all of a sudden you're in like heaven.
Yeah.
And that's what they were trying to like portray, but it was just a little too much.
Well, overall, I did like the look. In fact, I noticed that most films are dark, and since we usually see 3D films, they're even darker. This one was like so bright, it really impressed me. So I appreciated that.
You can really tell where they corrected it. Was it Deborah and Zack Snyder are producers or executive producers on this film? It's very clear where their influence is. Those were the video game action shots. Atlantis is supposed to be like this mythical creature, so we actually don't even know what a fighting style from Atlantis would look like on land. So it was neat to see how graceful she was as a fighter, but also it just looked like a video game. And it doesn't work when you do aerial shots of a fight scene. Just do what works in a fight scene. When you get Aquaman, the first fight scene you see Aquaman in is in a submarine, and it's like typical action. So when we got those tighter shots from I believe it was like the actual director directing that stuff, because I'm familiar with his oeuvre of the Furious 7. And but like there was not enough practical, and when the practical butted up against the CGI, it was very, very jarring. So when he was fighting with his half brother down in the water, like that was all practical. Well, part of it was practical, and the parts that were practical, they didn't match up. It was very, very heavy-handed. So there was a lot of labeling of everywhere you are, and it didn't matter where you were because you're somewhere in the Indian Ocean. Like it didn't, like, who cares?
Italy, I know.
Who cares?
Yeah,
just leave it.
Figure it out. Yeah, you're right. I do got to say, I do appreciate overall that I just spent the last, like the fall reading every single Aquaman published since 1968. And I can say that most of the plot of this film came from the comics. So thumbs up for that.
Oh yeah, it's definitely like a fanboy's wet dream, hilariously enough.
Because there's two types of people I think that are going to go see. Well, there's three types. There's the people who are just going to go because it's a superhero movie, and then there's the type of people who are going to go because they're comic book readers and fans of Aquaman, and there's the third type who is just a fan of Jason Momoa shirtless. So of those three types, who would you suspect enjoyed this movie the most?
Hey! I resent that. Okay. Look, just because I like Aquaman, and just because I like shirtless dudes, and just because I like garbage DC movies doesn't mean I automatically like this movie, but I did. So, we all know I'm the queen of trash. But this movie wasn't trash. It was great. And of course I liked it. Shut up, Jolie.
There's two main bad guys in the movie. One of them is Black Manta. He was the black dude that had the cool helmet. What'd you think of him?
I thought it was too alienish. They made him look like an alien, and that was just weird.
It was weird. Did you think he was scary?
Not really. Like, I didn't expect him when he said, like, he was going to make a bigger helmet. I didn't expect an alien helmet. Like, I think they could have made him look a lot cooler. Like, he had a really cool personality. He was a great actor, but just his outfit just brought it down.
What'd you think of his outfit, Centeno?
The outfit was cool, but just the helmets in particular.
You didn't like it?
No, huge eyes, just really flat top. Was that how the comic book looked?
Pretty much. That's exactly how it is in the comic. What about Orm, the Ocean Master? You know, the other bad guy, his brother? What'd you think of him?
He was cool. He was totally different. He's your typical blue eyes, blonde hair. I thought he had really cool outfits. I wouldn't say he was evil, though.
Well, yeah, you're right. He was kind of an anti-hero.
Yeah, he he had like a nice side to him. He was just like brought up wrong, but you could tell he still had like emotion. He wasn't out to kill.
Did you like how bright his costume was, Santino? Like a comic book. Did you like that?
Yeah, it was bright.
Okay. Did you like it that it was bright?
Yeah,
Okay.
I guess.
Good. Let's talk about Mara, the redhead girl, the one who can control the water. What'd you think of her?
I thought she was a badass. I thought she was really cool. Her hair was pretty awesome. It stood out as like a really cool, powerful woman. I think the outfit was a little bit too tight. I could have sized it up a little bit, but
Baggier outfit. What'd you think of her outfit?
Baggier outfit. I like the outfit.
What'd you think of Jason Momoa as Aquaman?
I had like mixed feelings. It was like he was a really good actor where I think he portrayed the character perfectly, but just his looks like set it off. Like, I don't know, his looks just didn't to me represent Aquaman. I feel like he was too rough around the edges, like too big, too like hello, and then like it just, to me, he was a great actor, so it was fun to watch that, but it's just something was just not settling about his looks.
But technically, you didn't know what Aquaman before this movie, so how do you know what Aquaman's supposed to look like?
SpongeBob.
He wasn't clean cut enough.
I don't know. There was just something about him that watching him as like just his features, it just didn't represent what my mind would think of Aquaman.
Okay.
Would you recommend this to audiences? Anybody? Who would you recommend it to?
I'd recommend this to Aquaman fans because it's a fairly faithful adaptation of his story. And to mainstream fans, yes, I would recommend it. I think it's a fairly decent, superhero fantasy movie.
110%. I mean, this Aquaman reminded me so much of the Justice League animated series Aquaman, but like pumped up. Like they were like, how do we make the butt of everyone's joke Aquaman into a character that people want to dress up as for Halloween? And I think Jason Momoa nailed it. But not only that, Amber Heard's Mara was probably my favorite part of the movie. Like, if you are interested in the DC ladies, if you are a fan of, like, the bombshells like I am, where, like, they are front and center, if you love Wonder Woman, I think you'll really like her characterization in this one. It was spot on. She was so powerful. She was never saved. She was never any of that garbage. So, especially if you love DC, just in general, you'll like the movie.
If you like gymnasts swimming around in the ocean in their cosplay outfits, this is the film for you.
Do you recommend this movie?
I would recommend this movie to anyone who doesn't really like superheroes or anything like that. It was definitely not your typical bad guy beats bad girl. It was like, it's not your typical movie. It's fun to watch. There's a lot of color. It's really cool to see how they animated the water and how everything comes together that way. And it didn't feel like you were watching a movie for 4 hours. It didn't drag on. I felt like they timed it really well.
I'm with both of you guys. It actually didn't feel like 2.5 hours. It felt just normal 2 hours, and I did believe the beginning was really rushed too.
Yeah. I do recommend this film. Marginally, it's not a great film, but it's good fun, and it could have been a lot worse.